Following Gilbert Burns' loss to Mike Malott, he retired. Yes, he laid the gloves down for the final time and then had one of the saddest retirement speeches I've ever heard.
But yeah, I think that's it, I think that's it,
After suffering that third round TKO against Mike, Gilbert's losing streak was now at 5 in a row, and the last 2 being by brutal TKO. I do think that it was the right move for Gilbert to retire, but I don't want Gilbert to be remembered for the last fights, but for who he was before the losing streak. Now guys, today I'm going to be taking a look back on the career of Mr. Burns, taking a look at the moments of all the highlights in his career, all the special fights he's had. We will start with the beginning in the UFC, where he started in the UFC, the peak of his fighting career inside the promotion, and ultimately what led to the retirement of Gilbert Burns, the 5-fight losing streak. Gilbert came into the UFC when he was only 7-0, and he came in as a lightweight, having his first 7 fights at lightweight, winning his first fight by unanimous decision over an undefeated fighter. Following that fight, Gilbert secured 2 more wins via armbar, moving him to 10-0 by March of 2015. Now, later that year, in November, Gilbert faced 18-1 Rashid Magomedov, where he suffered his first loss by unanimous decision. And after that first loss, Gilbert had a bit of a streak where he would win a fight and then lose one right after. And in July of 2018, Gilbert suffered a bad TKO loss to Dan Hooker, where Dan hurt Gilbert with a big knee right up the middle and then ended the fight with a left hook and ground and pound. After that loss, Gilbert had 3 more wins at lightweight before he made his welterweight debut in August of 2019. Gilbert stepped in there on 11 days' notice to face an undefeated 20-0 Alexei Kunichenko. Alexei was the favorite heading into this fight, known for his very high-level technical striking. Kunichenko was a 4-time M1 global welterweight champ in Russia before signing with the UFC. And Gilbert went in there, used his grappling, and secured a dominant unanimous decision win, handing Alexei his first loss on just 11 days' notice. And after that fight, Gilbert decided to stay at welterweight, where he went on a 6-fight winning streak, beating guys like Tyron Woodley and Damian Maia. His finish over Damian Maia jumped Gilbert all the way up to number 6 in the welterweight rankings, and his win over Tyron Woodley was the last thing he needed to put him in a title shot. Gilbert, heading into his first title opportunity, was the number 1 contender at welterweight, and he was facing the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter on the roster. Kamaru Usman was at the prime of his fighting career, 17-1, coming off of his first 2 title defenses, running a 12-fight winning streak inside the UFC. Kamaru was a huge favorite heading in there, at -275, but Gilbert went in there with no fear, walked right into the face of Kamaru Usman, throwing big shots from the first bell. Now, in the first 30 seconds of the fight, Gilbert cracked Kamaru with a big overhand, stumbling Kamaru, making him put his hands on the ground for a split second. Kamaru did recover, but for the rest of round 1, Gilbert landed clean shots on Kamaru, winning the round as a whole. This was the first time we had seen Kamaru hurt or put in any sort of danger in a fight. And up to this point, he was just dominating his competition, and this was the first time somebody had rocked him that bad on the feet. At the end of the round, Kamaru started to find his signature jab that really started to bother Gilbert. In round 2, Kamaru kept finding his jab, hurting Gilbert more and more each time it landed. By the end of round 2, Gilbert's face was all beaten up, and at the beginning of round 3, Kamaru ended up finding the finish with that crisp jab. Now, there is no shame to losing in Kamaru Usman, especially at that time in his career, and Gilbert gained nothing but respect from that fight following his title loss. Now, Burns had 1 more win against Stephen Thompson, where he got the unanimous decision win, and after that fight, he was matched up with the 10-0 Khamzat Chimaev, coming off of his win against Li Jingliang. Before facing Burns, Khamzat had only absorbed 2 total strikes in his first 4 fights inside the UFC, finishing all his previous opponents with ease. Gilbert accepted this fight with no hesitation though, and he brought Khamzat one of the toughest fights he's had to date. They fought April 9th, 2022, a 3-round war. This is one of the greatest fights of all time, and at the start of round 1, Gilbert denied the early grappling attempts that Khamzat is known for. He survived the first early exchanges on the ground and was looking good on the feet until, with about a minute left in round 1, Khamzat landed a big jab that dropped Burns to the ground. Khamzat jumps on him, swarming him with big ground and pound. Unable to find the finish though, Burns makes it into round 2. Round 2, Gilbert came out there and was looking for blood, looking for big shots, dropping Khamzat with a glancing left hook as he was coming in. Gilbert then swarmed him, looking to land big shots, looking to finish Khamzat, but Khamzat was able to survive and make it to the end of the round. At the end of round 2, Gilbert landed a huge overhand right that hurt Khamzat badly. He then dropped Khamzat with another overhand and was hitting big elbows while Khamzat was able to secure a takedown to finish out the round. A huge moment for Gilbert. Hurting Khamzat twice in the round, being the first person to win a round off of Khamzat in the UFC, and being the first person to make Khamzat look human inside the UFC, landing big shots, being able to hurt him on the feet. Now, round 3, Chimaev came out there with a relentless forward pressure, walking down Burns the whole time, looking to land big shots to end the fight. Gilbert did keep up though with Khamzat, landing big counter shots as he was coming in. Throughout the round though, Khamzat was landing the cleaner shots and was maintaining the forward pressure, ultimately winning him the round. Khamzat Chimaev wins the fight by a 29-28 unanimous decision. They were given the fight of the night bonus, and Gilbert was actually given his win bonus by Dana White because he felt like he deserved it after such a war. Now, Gilbert might have lost the fight, but he gained so much respect after it, still being one of the only people to give Khamzat trouble inside the cage. And after that loss, Gilbert bounced back with 2 more wins, a sub over Neil Magny and a decision win over Jorge Masvidal. And that win over Jorge put Gilbert at the number 5 position in the welterweight division. And in May of 2023, Gilbert was given a number 1 contender fight against Belal Muhammad. The winner of that fight would go on to fight for the championship in their next bout. And Gilbert took this fight on just 16 days notice. And I really think that this was the turning point in his career. Just minutes into the first round against Belal, Gilbert suffered an arm injury, landing awkward while attempting a takedown. And despite having a totally compromised arm, Gilbert fought the remainder of that bout, making it to the judge's decision. Gilbert lost by unanimous decision, and after that fight, Gilbert took some time off. Now, despite suffering many tears in his shoulder, Gilbert did not undergo any surgery. His injuries were able to heal on their own, and he was able to get back into fully training MMA at the end of the year in 2023. And by the beginning of the year in 2024, Gilbert accepted a fight against the 16-2 Jack Della Maddalena. That fight was one of the tougher ones for Gilbert. He was able to use his grappling to control Jack for majority of the fight, and it was looking like Gilbert was going to win the unanimous decision. But at the end of round 3, Jack was able to scramble up from a takedown, get up to his feet. Gilbert then shoots in immediately for another takedown, where then he is met with one of the most perfectly timed knees right to the face. Jack drops him bad, getting on him, then hitting him with massive elbows to finish the fight. Now at this point, this was only Gilbert's 2nd loss in a row, and I was not too worried. The fans were not too worried, but it was still a bad, brutal loss. And Gilbert then made a turnaround against the 16-1 Sean Brady. And if you are in the UFC and you have a bit of name value, you've maybe fought for the belt, you've been at the top of the division, maybe you've even held the belt at some point, the UFC will just keep feeding you to these younger contenders to try and build some credibility behind them. And Gilbert ended up losing to Sean Brady by unanimous decision, where Brady just outworked him and outcontrolled him for 3 rounds. A very, very tough matchup for Gilbert Burns coming off of that JDM loss. Now the losing streak is now at 3, and instead of giving Burns a bounce back fight against somebody lower in the rankings, somebody lower in competition, they gave him 17-0 Michael Morales. And Michael goes out there and knocks out Gilbert Burns in brutal fashion in round 1. That fight was a huge mismatch. Really, really sad to see that happen to Gilbert Burns. That fight moved the Gilbert Burns losing streak to now 4. He's only fighting the toughest contenders, youngest contenders at welterweight. 16-1 Sean Brady, 17-0 Michael Morales, 16-2 Jack Della Maddalena. Before that, facing Bilal Muhammad. The last 5 matchups Gilbert was given in the UFC was something seriously crazy. Dana White and the matchmakers then decide to give Gilbert Mike Malott in the main event of UFC Winnipeg. And I'm not going to lie, I thought that Gilbert might have a chance, to win this fight going in there. He's faced the tougher competition. Knowing Mike has shied away when showing some adversity inside the cage. And heading in there, Gilbert didn't look terrible, Mike was just bigger. He was just bigger, younger, hungrier, just a look cleaner on the feet, and was able to pick apart Gilbert and secure the 3rd round TKO win. I really felt bad watching Gilbert lose like that, I think that we all knew what was coming next after watching Gilbert go out like that. Gilbert then retired inside the cage, laying his gloves down for the final time, having one of the most heart-wrenching, saddest retirement speeches I've heard, having his family inside the cage with him. We just saw Cub Swanson retire at UFC 327 on a high note, but seeing somebody retire on a loss, it just hits so much harder, and especially coming off of 5 losses, I really do feel bad for Gilbert, and just the level of competition he's faced is just something insane. Now, I would have liked to see the UFC give Gilbert a bit of an easier matchup towards the end of his career. That's the fight game, though. The old get fed to the young. But I really want you guys to remember Durinho for his prime and all those amazing fights he brought to us. How do you guys feel, though, seeing Gilbert retire? Let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Do you think that the UFC should have given Gilbert, maybe an easier matchup towards the end of his career? Let me know. I really appreciate all the support and comments from the last video. It really means a lot. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this video. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up one last time. Gilbert Durinho Burns.